Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network and another episode, struggling to talk today, of the NFL Betting Card Live. I'm, of course, joined by Spread Astaire and Tyler Hicks. We'll have Jayme next week. And we are going to, obviously take a quick run around the NFL, maybe a quick look back at last week, a quick look at all the coaching changes, which obviously affects me with the Washington news today. And then, of course, we're going to take a quick look at an early look at Super Bowl and the matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers, this exciting rematch, and talk through what bets we should maybe hit now, because obviously lines do move throughout. We have another, 9 days and lines will move, and some bets we want to jump on now. So we will talk that all through. So let me say hi to the guys, and then we'll get right into it. Spread, how are you doing? You said, should we recap the games? Let me say, how did you enjoy your conference weekend? What did you think? And how excited are you for this Super Bowl matchup?
Yeah, we had two great games. I thought the Lions might run away with it and make it a blowout, but San Francisco hung tough. And that was one thing where we always come in with these narratives. Well, Shanahan can't come from behind, and then he does. Right? It reminds me of like when we'll bet like a team that averages like 217 points a game and they hit a 250 or something in the NBA, right? It's like it's good to use this historical stuff, but remember, like, things can change. So I thought that was a big win. Everybody talked about the coaching decisions. I thought that was kind of a fun discourse. Kind of. Everyone seems so entrenched though. Yeah. And I really feel like there's so much more to it, right? It's either like, use the math or you're dumb, or like, criticism of mathematical models. Well, like, if you can't, like, why is this model infallible, but no other one is, right?
Right. No matter what the decision, it's all going to come down to execution and results. And if the results look good, the coaching decision is going to look good. If the results don't look good, the coaching decision is going to look stupid. So, that's what's funny to me about
and my main takeaway, though, is this is why the NFL is still the highest rated TV show in America and the biggest sport in America, because we are able to have this conversation and we're talking about the game, what happened in the game, the decisions of the game, the execution of the game. Nobody's saying the 49ers should trade for this receiver next year, right? When they're in the middle of a playoff hunt, which happens in the NBA. I've turned in NBA playoff games and they're talking about potential offseason trades. They don't know how to market their sport. The NFL does. That's true. Every game matters. We are talking about the games. We're not talking about tweets. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about who's getting moved, right? So to me, it was so much fun to watch. And I know, it's not going to last forever. But as of right now, it seems like the NFL is going to have a chokehold on America's sporting landscape for the next 10 years, because it's simply the most quality entertainment out there. Everything you watch, you'll remember. I've watched so many NBA games this year. They all blur together. Right. You remember these moments as football fans. People in Detroit will be talking about this 10 years from now.
Oh, my God. Yeah, absolutely.
People in San Francisco will be celebrating this 10 years from now.
That off the helmet catch. I mean, come on. Yeah, we're all going to remember this, even when we're not Detroit and San Francisco.
And so that's just what I think makes the NFL so much fun. And now that it's become a year-round sport, because even though we'll be looking ahead to the Super Bowl, there's so many moving parts in the offseason, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, absolutely. And that just segues in, Spread. I mean, if you love the offseason, just use On the Clock Mock Draft Simulator, or you could subscribe to the Ultimate GM. And
you're going to have to update that, Meg, so I can start doing a coaching search in the offseason.
Oh, you want me to add coaching searches?
Coaching search simulator, right? Well, if he gets hired here,
Oh my God,
Kubiak gets hired.
We can barely keep up with all these cap transactions and that kind of stuff. I can't imagine with and then then the carousel of now this coordinator left with this guy, so now this coordinator is open and that kind of wild stuff. Anyways, Tyler, what did you think of conference weekend? How pumped are you for this Super Bowl, and how you doing?
Yeah, I mean, conference weekend was fun. San Fran, they played with their food a little bit, and in the end, they were able to fight back and win. Chiefs game went kind of how we thought it would go. I mean, Super Bowl is going to be a rematch of a couple of years ago, a couple of different players. No Tyreek Hill on the Chiefs side, but I think we get same results. I think Mahomes holds the trophy up in the end. They're champions, and I don't know why people keep doubting this guy. I mean, People bet against Brady for how many years, and they just kept burning money. Why are they going to do it again against this guy?
Yeah, I heard you guys talk about this earlier in the week, and yeah, I mean, I definitely would do that with Brady. Like, oh, the team that they're facing is better, and and then Brady would walk in and they'd beat him, and yeah, I think we could be dealing with the same thing with Mahomes. I think 49ers are a little more live maybe than you do, but to me, this is like a total pick 'em. Like if it's Sunday at 9:30 Eastern, if you said the Chiefs won or the 49ers won, I would have no element of surprise either way. I just feel like this is a very evenly. It's weird to me because like the Chiefs had a very underwhelming regular season and overwhelmingly impressive playoffs. And then it's like vice versa. The 49ers had a incredibly, if you're looking at the whole body of work, incredibly impressive regular season and kind of a very underwhelming playoff. So, you usually bet on the team that's hotter, but you also can't deny the weapons the 49ers have if the chess pieces are moved right, I don't know. So it's going to be interesting for sure. At first, I was kind of bored by this Super Bowl because of the rematch, because I kind of like just some other narratives and fun stories. But these two of the best teams in the NFL, they deserve to meet, and it'll be fun to see how it plays out. Any other thoughts from the conference championship games spread?
It's just so much funny how our ideas change through the season. So if you would go back to week 8 or week 9 and look up what we were talking about on the show, I was for sure the NFC was going to win the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
At that point, Philly was like 9-1 and looked just as good as they were last year, right? And Dallas was on a roll. Their net rating was like 25, like they were winning by an average of 25 points per game. And then, of course, how good San Francisco was, right? And all these teams in the AFC felt like they had flaws. But I'm so much more impressed by going on the road and beating Buffalo and Baltimore than hosting Green Bay and Detroit and not covering in either game. I mean, you failed to meet expectations here.
Right.
So it goes back and forth. I lean towards KC, but I'll tell you what, Meg, after rewatching that game, specifically the Niners game, if they can run the ball, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And I really think that they are going to be able to run the ball. They did pretty good against the Detroit defense that we rated pretty highly against the run. We knew the weakness of that team was going to be the secondary and the passing attack. But the Niners were able to get good chunks of runs off too.
And he didn't go away from it, even in a negative game script. He still kept feeding McCaffrey, and McCaffrey just looked like a man possessed. And that's why I wouldn't count out 49ers.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So, and that's why I wouldn't be surprised either way. I mean, I like betting against Mahomes has obviously been a losing battle during these playoffs, and very well could this time too. But that's why, I mean, I me, I'm going to be approaching things more from obviously the props and anytime touchdown market and stuff like that. But we're a betting show. We're talking about
as a fantasy player, this is really your time to shine because you've been dealing with these numbers all year. So when you see, for me, okay, all right, because usually I just tell your props. I'm not. You're gonna see numbers that just jump. Wait a second. Why was Travis Kelce this all year and now he's this?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Why was Christian McCaffrey this all year and now he's this?
Yeah.
And there's so many more opportunities. And I feel at this point we have two solid teams. Anyone could win. If it was a plus 2.5, I would say take the +1 money line because it seems like it's a pretty even matchup. Yeah. But I think the player props is where there's going to be a lot of mistakes as far as they put up so many.
Right. That there's no way that all those can be efficient.
Yeah. So I really feel like the people who have been playing fantasy and playing player props all year, this is your time to shine. For me as a sides and totals guy. We'll run the numbers. We'll make a pick and we'll stand by it. Speaking of that, Meg, I haven't run them yet. Would you go over or under here on this Super Bowl?
I actually have a stronger take on that. So yeah, I look at this as like a pick 'em. That's a terrible side to take. I guess probably because I want the Niners to win. I'm kind of saying the Niners to win. I think I'm going to bet McCaffrey and Debo in the MVP market. but just because that's a fun way to obviously approach if you think that the Niners are going to win. But again, I really feel like it's a pick 'em. I have a very strong take on the the total. I think it's coming under. I think it's going to be under. I really like the under in this. We'll get into like fully breaking this down and each going around kind of around the horn here and breaking this game down further to look for different ways to approach this early, as this is an early look. But the way I'm looking at player props, and I've already have this on the sheet, and obviously check that on the FanSpeak betting card, is I already have up Pacheco's rushing line, McCaffrey's rushing line. Both were in the bottom fourth of EPA allowed, so expected points allowed in rushing. And I mean, 49ers gave up the third most rushing yards in the league. Chiefs were very middle of the pack. So while the Chiefs defense is absolutely elite, where they can be attacked is on the ground. Both teams you want to attack on the ground. We saw David Montgomery was running all over the 49ers on Sunday. So I really, really, really like both teams to lean into the running game, because as much as we talk about Mahomes and not betting against them and that, you've also heard people talk this week, like, no, he's not a game manager, but he's got those splashy plays. He can do whatever he wants, but he's also this year, and especially in the context of these playoffs, been just playing with laser efficiency, and like they just like work their way down the field. I do a show on CBS now on Thursday mornings in the past couple of weeks. That's with a Chiefs fan, and he's super sharp too. But he talks about, he's not a game manager, but they are going to very much matriculate down the field. That is their strategy, and they've done it incredibly effectively this year. So, I think they know where their strengths are, and I love Pacheco's overs. I think if both teams are leaning into the run, this could be a slower game. And I just don't see, sure, any game could just shoot out with the types of teams we have. But I think this is going to be a slower paced game with two teams leaning onto the run. And I think it's going to come. I really like the under for that reason.
What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah. So Tyler, what are your thoughts on that, on the total, on the side? I know where you feel on the side, but what are your thoughts on the total?
Yeah, I lean under too. I mean, I think San Fran's going to have not a lot of turnovers, but I think he's going to turn the ball over in this game. Brock Purdy. The Chiefs are going to get pressure on. They've been able to get pressure on every quarterback they've played in the postseason, and this dude can't play under pressure. Yeah, he can use his legs a little bit. Yeah, he makes these miraculous plays, but how many times is it the ball bouncing off the helmet and these all-pro players making the play for him in the end? Jauan Jennings reaching back like Odell Beckham and catching that ball after he ran around for 15 yards. So it's like, I still don't think the dude's all that good. I think he's going to look like a deer in the headlights with Mahomes and these guys in front of him. And if you spot that same lead you spotted the last 2 weeks to the Chiefs, good luck. I think.
What does he have to do to be good, Tyler?
I don't think he'll like that system in quarterbacks. I just always think it's going to be that guy is just built by the system.
All right.
Unless, like, God forbid, CMC went down for a week, Debo went down, Ayuk went down, all in the same week, and he threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns with Jauan Jennings and Chris Conley running routes. So it's like, oh, maybe the quarterback makes these players better, and it's not just the all-pro skill players doing it for him. Because you seen when one of them went out this year, he looked like shit. So
yeah, he also had we talked about it. That was also with Trent Williams out, right? So, I mean, we talked about that, and that's key too. I mean, honestly,
and just to speak on that, outside of him, is their offensive line even good? They have an all-pro guy and 4 guys around them.
I'd have to look at analysis on the rest of the guys.
It's pretty good.
I think it's been rated a pretty good overall offensive line, but obviously they did struggle without Trent. I obviously remember that 3 games.
They're very weak on the opposite side of Trent too. So I just think there's ways that KC can just, when they look at the game, like similar to how they looked at the Baltimore game, I feel like they had a game plan. They knew they were going to execute it. They knew it was going to work to a T. Baltimore had nothing for it. I feel like Spagnuolo and those guys roll out on the field. They have a game plan for Purdy and these guys. It's going to work. They're going to get a lead, and then they just sit on it from there. So I do like your take on the Pacheco rushing yards, because I think he's just going to run the hell out of the ball.
Oh, I like alting him. I mean, it's only at like 65.5 right now. I mean, I think he's hit it every game, and he just went over this in the Ravens game, but he's gone well over in some of the other games, but he hit it in every playoff game. And I mean, obviously, just in the last half of the season, I think he's been very good live for that, or he's hit that number quite often. But yeah, in every playoff game he has. So when you're going up against one of the actually worst run defenses, why wouldn't you? I just think it's all laid out for him, and that one is my favorite by far. So yeah, so you like the under too, though.
Yeah, I lean under too.
How about you, Spread? Do you, with the whole like potentially could be a slower paced game if both teams lean into the run, do you like the under for that reason? Do you like the under for other reasons, or do you not like the under at all?
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a big game, you're always going to lean towards the under. Most people get more conservative in a big game, and Dan Campbell's not playing in this game, so
right.
I think we can expect that trend to continue here. I do want to dive into it more, though. So we'll get deeper into that one next week. Tyler made a good point here. When you're talking these props, let's take advantage of some right now. Because if you like the over, I think most of them are only going one way.
Yeah.
However, I think for the side and the total, these numbers are pretty safe. And I feel the extra work, study, information you can gain during this time between now and next Friday is actually going to be worth more than any potential CLV you would be getting, especially on the side, as we talked about moving through zero in a game where there's no tie. So moving through zero means nothing to me. You're going to have to get to 2 before these really matter. So I'm fine to stay, but right now I'm with you guys. My initial lean's the under.
Okay. So I'm kind of leaning 49ers. Your undecided spread. Tyler is definitely in on the Chiefs. And then we're kind of all leaning the under. I feel actually pretty strong on the under. I actually already put on the card and already bet it. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll join you then.
But no, you don't have to.
The only thing is, what do you think? Do you think people are going to bet over or under during this week?
Well, it's the reason I bet it is because it usually, like you said, a lot of things go over, but because I read that it opened at like 49 or 48 and a half, and it's already come down to 47 and a half, and then it's already down to 47 on DraftKings. So I was like, oh, I don't want to, I really like this stand.
I'll be really curious. I think there'll be a late surge.
You do? Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see. On that about the movement on the total, but it already has moved down. So that's why I got nervous, because I was like, I do like the under, which I told this story in the show I was on this morning. And I had to give like a score, I actually got the score right. This is just like a fun story. I actually got the score right in the game 2 years ago, and it Rams Bengals. And I bet like $3 on it. I won a few $100.
Wow.
But like, the odds are insane. So I just threw like $3 on it, and but it was, I thought it was 24-20 because that's what I said on the show today. It was 23-20 was the score. And I basically took the spread, and I was like, I took it down a couple of points and then bet the team that I thought was going to win. It wasn't like this like super galaxy brain situation. Like I was like, I think it'll be close to the total, right under the total. And then, I think the Rams are going to win by about 3, and that's how I came up with choosing that number, but it ended up working out.
That's a good way to do it, Meg. I think that you got like a fun little way to try and attack that.
Yeah. So
team, choose the total and choose that it goes very close.
Mm-hmm.
And then pick the score.
Which is what I think this game is.
I think you got what, 100 to 1? If you said you got a couple $100 off $3.
Oh yeah.
To 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can just sprinkle right around in that little area.
Yeah, you shouldn't be obviously betting much on this, but yeah. So yeah, that's what I did with that, and I was thinking the same.
You bet $10,000 on it, they're going to think you have that almanac from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Why would you do this?
I love the Back to the Future reference, by the way. But yeah, I kind of feel the same thing about this. I feel like it's going to be a close game. I feel like it's going to be right just under. So that's how I came up. My game's 24-20 today. But I kind of like the 23-20. I could kind of see like a little bit of a field goal battle. So I might sprinkle on both. And then the other guy on the show said, well, I see Chiefs 24-20. And I was like, well, I got to bet both because come on, But anyways, yeah, we got B. Gar in the chat. He's on the 49ers money line under and Purdy MVP. So he thinks Purdy's going to step up in the big lights here. But yeah, so you're saying let's talk more about like game breakdown and really deciding the sides next week then, and talk some early
I
props.
just want to know what you thought. I mean, obviously the fourth down decisions were really tough, and everyone wants to victory lap on Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Before we dive into the props, my quick take on like last week is first of all, let's start with Baltimore. I'm in Baltimore. I'm obviously a Washington fan in Baltimore, not a Ravens fan at all. However, most of my friends are Ravens fans. So I go out with Ravens fans. And by the second half, it was like being in a nursing home. Like it was so depressing. I mean, so depressing. And all my friends were
going to the wrong nursing homes, Meg. It's cracking out here.
And so all my friends are like, run the damn ball. Why? And I understand, like, they lost obviously J.K. Dobbins and Keanu Mitchell, and they lost, but they still had Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. I understand that doesn't like strike fear in your eyes, but like when that is the way you attack this team, they only ran the ball like 6 times. Why would Lamar wasn't running more? That's my biggest takeaway from that game is the offensive game plan was horrible, absolutely horrible. And then it's like if they just got away from it, then the game was still close enough that they should have run the ball more. They should have gotten Odell Beckham involved more, in my opinion. I mean, what did you pay him $10 million a year to be a cheerleader or a wind sprint runner? Like that was just very odd to me that they didn't seem like an urgency to get him involved until like the end of the third quarter. Just like scheming and game plan and the lack of running the ball drove, I know, my friends crazy and drove me crazy too, because obviously killed all the props that I was on, like Odell. He only needed 25 yards. So that was my take on that one.
I feel like the Ravens offensive coordinator lost a game of chicken.
Yeah.
The idea was he goes, well, they're going to expect us to run.
Yeah.
So, they won't be prepared for this when we do that.
Yeah.
The problem is they've essentially, by you doing that, they've said, okay, now, you're not playing to your strengths anymore.
Right.
And I was really surprised. And I saw that. And you say, what did they pay Odell for? Did you hear the quote where he's on the bench telling Lamar, you got to get going, man. Our offense can't get going unless you get going. And it felt like he was encouraging him to run the ball more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. And he should have run the ball more. I mean, I bet in Lamar's prop too, which didn't hit. So I
was saying it on these shows. He's the second most electric runner behind Christian McCaffrey in my mind. I mean, maybe Bijan, right? Okay. Maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic, right?
Sure.
But I mean, you have this elite weapon, and it would be like not passing the ball to McCaffrey, right? You're taking away half of the reason why he's so good.
Right.
A dual threat. But you didn't do a dual threat. And cool, you want to establish that you're a real quarterback. Great. This is not the time.
No,
this not the time.
No.
When we paid you all that money, it's because you're a dual threat.
Yeah, and to Tyler's point, for the Chiefs, like credit to Steve Spagnuolo, that game plan was amazing. Obviously, his defense looked awesome, but I still think shame on Todd Monken and the offensive scheme and game plan and getting away from the run, or Lamar not running more. I mean, Tyler, what were your thoughts?
The fact that they were never in that situation all year. They were never down at any, like the only games that they were down points where it was like, all right, we might like be in a problem here, were the Cleveland game they lost when Lamar didn't play. Mm-hmm. And I believe the Rams game, and then they pushed it to overtime, which was just scoring back and forth. And then they get the punt return touchdown to end it quick in overtime. So they never really got pushed into that spot all year.
They lost to the Steelers, but I guess that was at the very end. The Steelers kind of came back.
They didn't play their starters.
Yeah,
they didn't play their starters that last game.
No. The Steelers game earlier in the year, the Steelers won.
Oh, I'd have to go double check that one, but I don't think
again, I'm always.
I don't think that was.
I mean, Tyler's got a good point. I know that they were like 14-3 against the spread in the first half.
I don't think we led much of that game
going into halftime.
Like we won that game in the end, but I wouldn't doubt
I think you guys kind of came back and went. Well, it was like a low scoring game, and then I think
the game was 17-14, and I wouldn't doubt it that it was like 14-10 most of that game, and we scored
Pickens Pickens got a late touchdown.
Yeah. So
because again,
they never really play from behind. They get behind late in the game, and it's like, well, we got one drive, and now the game's over. So to play the whole game from behind, it was just not fun. They had no answers. And I seen a quote before the game, like right before kickoff, that made a lot of sense. They said the Chiefs and Spagnuolo are the best at making Lamar run east to west instead of north to south. And then the game started, and it's like, oh my God, the dude won't run up and down the field. He will only run left to right. So whatever kind of scheme they run, it's
what
like
the hell is that?
He just gets confused and he doesn't know what to do. So I mean, I don't know what happened there for Baltimore, but it was just they finally laid an egg, and it happened in the biggest game of the year for them.
The worst possible time, and then builds up the Lamar can't win in the playoffs narrative, which I believe is 2-5.
I thought we were going to get the egg against Houston. It looked like it in the first half, and then they woke up.
Yeah, and he looked great in that game. I was just surprised the second half he didn't run more. Obviously, Odell was trying to pump him up to do so, and it didn't work. So that was my strong thought on that one. The second game, I know the summary is, we've been listening to it all week, but summary is, I know people are killing Dan Campbell. I've seen people come on both sides of it. I saw a couple stats that I found really interesting. The kicker's percent, I have it saved somewhere, but I can't find it off the top of my head. But the kicker's percentage above 40 yards was not like a give me by any means. So I think two things at play in the decision making. Number one, you could say that kind of risky go for it. I'm betting on my players' style is what got them there. He wasn't going to change then. And then number two, if he didn't have a strong faith in his kicker, then you kind of get it a little bit further, my biggest thing is everything is always results based in NFL. Like what happens results, you kill the coach if it doesn't work.
And everything. The stupidest thing in the NBA is adjustments when they go from shooting 18% from 3 to 40% from 3. Great adjustments, coach.
Right.
You made the adjustment to make your shots, right? I mean, you're so right about us being results oriented, right? Because say he goes out there and he elects to kick it, and he move over. We got a new gambler in town, and he's on his way to Vegas, right? I mean,
right.
You know how much praise he would have got if it worked,
right? Yeah. Exactly. And
there's going to be a Super Bowl in Las Vegas. You might have the biggest gambler of a coach out there, right? I mean,
I do love
if he'd have kicked that field goal and made it, I'd still be calling banks to get loans to put it on the Chiefs right now.
Yeah. Okay. But just to finish my point, that hilarious. I love it. But they elected for the first field goal and he misses it. Right. Then people would be killing him. You've gone for this like aggressive style. And now you're kicking.
Staley.
What's that?
Staley did that too. Remember, he started getting criticized and then he stopped going for it.
Right. But I'm saying in the biggest moment, if he elected to kick, the kicker misses it. And then he obviously wouldn't have kicked the second one.
The whole it was to push it to 3 possessions, not late in the second half, but late in the third quarter. If you miss it, like I feel like you're right. There's going to be a few voices that are like, "Why'd you do that? You were the 4th down guy." But I think a lot of guys, like even myself, because I said it, I was like, his decision making is going to be what destroys his team in the end and loses them a game. That's pretty much what did it. If he'd have missed that field goal, and then San Fran went down and scored and won the game, I'd been like,
yeah, the same results could have happened.
I feel like he made the right decision if he would have kicked the field goal, and if they would have missed it, it is what it is.
If they would have missed it.
To go for it, and the momentum back to San Fran was just a bad idea.
And did like one of your 17th round darlings just drop the ball?
Yeah, Josh Reynolds. Yeah,
he
dropped 2. He dropped.
Did you have a ton of him?
Ton of him. Oh my god, I had like 40% of Josh Reynolds. Yeah, I mean, so
it's like round 17
because he was round 17. Yeah, exactly.
Because I hope you didn't draft him any earlier than that.
Round 17, round 18. Yeah, he dropped the 4th and 2. The 4th down that everybody's talking about, and then he dropped the a third down, a crucial 3rd down. So massive drops for him. So yeah, sorry to see. I was rooting for the Lions just as an underdog fan, but again, I think we're still getting the 2 best teams in the NFL.
And I hate to say
the best teams in the NFL.
That was a worst case possible scenario for you as a Commanders fan with what happened in that Lions game. Them running out to that lead and looking like they were going to a Super Bowl, and then they barely lose the game.
Oh, and that's why
then
Ben Johnson.
And then Ben Johnson looked around and said, maybe I'll just stay for a little bit. Like maybe we do have something here.
Well, I spent way too much time on Twitter these last 3 days about the Washington head coach.
These last 11 years.
Yeah. So let's circle into coaching right now for, just like a hot 5 minutes, and then we'll get into the props. But I've spent way too much time when the Ben Johnson news broke. Tuesday, that was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I've been obsessively on Twitter reading everything possible at the Washington head coach search. And I will say this, that just came up about Ben Johnson, because, Washington beat writers are digging for why. Apparently Mark Shareth went on a show, I don't know what day it was, but this week, and said that Ben Johnson told him, or I guess this was known in NFL circles, that he really only wanted the Chargers job because he wanted to work with an established quarterback. And obviously next year, I think there is speculation that there could be some very established, very, very stud quarterbacks to work with if things fall apart in Dallas or Philly or Buffalo, or if Andy Reid retires, or, I get that you want to walk into a job and have, a starting stud quarterback is much more appealing to have as a first-time head coach than grooming a rookie. But if you knew you only wanted the Chargers job, my big beef and problem with this in regards to Ben Johnson is, because then the nice way to put it is, he wants to go back and win with Detroit. Apparently that's out there, that he wanted the Chargers job. He wanted to work with Herbert. He didn't want to work with a rookie. If that was the thing, then what day did Harbaugh get hired? When Harbaugh got hired, then he should have bowed out. And he let them know when they were on the plane to Detroit. I mean, they were still interviewing the Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, but still, like, to me, that is so messed up that he should. I
think that's a little bit of a cover fire for, like, I feel like they got back on that plane and the owner and the GM said, "What are they giving you to be their head coach?" He told them the price, and they said, "Here's that money to stay here." Because they said he got a significant pay raise to stay. So my guess is whatever you guys were giving him. I thought that was
Slowick. I thought he got a significant pay raise last year, and I thought the report was he wasn't getting more this year. He did?
I thought he was. I know Slowick got his too, but I swore I seen Ben Johnson was also getting a significant pay raise. So that was my guess. Is they got back on the plane. They went, we were so close. Let's not break any of this apart. Give him whatever money he wants, and we're running.
I would. I mean, if I was Detroit, I would. And I think now we're going to see a new trend. It worked. Whatever worked, whether it was, Ben Johnson is just wanting the perfect scenario for his first head coaching job, because this is now 2 cycles where he turned down the Panthers last year and he turned down us in Seattle essentially this year. So, maybe he does just want to walk into the pristine situation with a veteran quarterback. That was one of the questions. And then the whole Schlereth report kind of confirmed what people might be thinking in that regard. I'm sure Detroit was trying to do everything to get them stay, but that it worked, that Ben Johnson stays, Bobby Slowick stays, hurts Washington and Washington fans, because we all want an offensive minded head coach. Obviously this might be the new trend, because we talk about, okay, for these defensive guys, which now we have one, you get the right offensive coordinator. If they're good, they're going to get a head coaching job. Well, now it's just like, just throw the bank at them. Do whatever you can to keep them. But, I was obviously really, really disappointed and bummed about the Ben Johnson. And then my fallback was Bobby Slowick, came from the Washington tree, was obviously incredibly impressed what he did with Stroud. And then he gets more money to stay in Houston, which obviously is great for them. And I was just super bummed. Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Arthur Smith for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he was running
offense. I've heard some good.
Why are you so worried about him as an OC?
You want to know? I think he just
sucked. Very good offensive coordinator.
You want to know all I've heard from Yinzers the last 2 days since this dude's got hired? Well, 4 years ago with Derrick Henry and AJ Brown, he was a good offensive coordinator. It's like
he was. Well, I mean,
what happened the last 2 years when he had Bijan, Drake London, and
he was
Kyle
the head
Pitts?
coach? It's way different. It's way different.
Plays.
It doesn't matter.
I do think, like, let's see how he does just as a coordinator, because just as a coordinator, he actually did lead it. Yeah, it was.
I think by week 3, Pickens is going to have him like pinned to like the back corner of his locker, and he's going to be like beating him up. And you're going to see it on Twitter.
I think once again
we're going to be running inside zones with Anthony McFarland and running end arounds with Calvin Austin, while Pickens Najee and Freiermuth and everyone else are doing
I think Freiermuth.
First of all, I mean, Najee's nothing. Like,
no,
I mean,
Najee.
yeah.
And
Najee is
Warren,
like literally like if you talk about wins above replacement, Najee's the replacement. There's
No.
nothing special about
take him away
at
and
all.
run your guy Warren. And let's see how many times he fumbles all year. Let's watch him lead the
I'm
league in
not saying
fumbles.
Jalen Warren's any better.
I think
Even though I drafted
Najee
him
and
a
Warren
ton in
are.
basketball, that didn't work out.
I don't know. I doubt you on that. I think Najee and Warren are a fine tandem, and it'll be interesting to see what he does with them because he did have what is his name? Matt Harmon from Yahoo Sports did a great breakdown on it, and a lot of it was speaking to Spread's point, like let's just admit it. Some guys aren't ready to be a head coach, like. Steve's a big Najee truther.
Steve's on my side. He knows.
Look,
What does he do that's good?
Rush for 1,000 yards in 3 straight years.
Yes, and he has like a high
1,000
explosive
yards
rate
on a 17-game schedule.
broken tackle rate.
Yards a game.
Yeah.
He had
Broke the most
like
tackles
something
behind the line of scrimmage in the last 3 years because he's
Yeah,
ran
there's
behind
No,
the
he did.
line.
Are
Yes,
you
he did.
serious?
Yeah. He ranks very
He's been-
high.
He gets hit
Yeah.
behind the offensive line the most out of any running back in the league.
Okay.
His like
All right, my bad.
his like initial contact on a run is like -2 yards because the moment he gets the ball, they're right there.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Okay.
he had
All right.
like
Well,
something. One of the
Maybe
most
I'm just being a hater then.
Like don't get me wrong. He's not the flashy gonna run for a 75-yard touchdown running back, but let that dude get into space, and it's gonna take 2 to 3 of those D-backs to bring him down because he's gonna be Derrick Henry light, basically, going down the
No, he's
sideline.
not. He's gonna be Ezekiel Elliott.
He ran well down the stretch. He ran really well down the stretch this year too. I mean, he's a big part of why they made the playoffs, in my opinion. But I'll send you the Matt Harmon video. It was good. I mean, it was basically the summary though was like, let this guy just be offensive coordinator. Clearly, the lights were too big as a coach.
It's so much different.
So
for example, when you're the head coach, someone on the defense gets in trouble. You got to deal with it.
Right.
A lot of this stuff doesn't come out. A lot of these guys, the policemen have tickets. The cheap police goes. They get quick phone calls in the middle of the night, and they get out of, especially in a town like Pittsburgh, right, where or Atlanta, right? We know things can go on under the table. Now he only has to worry about calling plays. They could be throwing a riot in the defensive meeting room, and he doesn't have to even think about it. He just sits there.
Yeah,
it's so much different. You don't have to worry about hotels. You don't have to worry about when you're leaving, all the stuff that goes into it. So I think that he's going to do a good job.
And dealing with the media. He did not deal well with the media in Atlanta at all. Like he was always kind of like bumping heads with like kind of coming back at them when
I will make one comment.
I think it's probably got to be tough to talk to a bunch of guys that have never played football beyond the high school level.
Oh, I'm sure.
And have never been in an NFL locker room trying to get men that are 6'4", 250 pounds to listen to you, because physical intimidation is not going to work, right? Unless you're Dan Campbell. So it's got to kind of be annoying to be like second guessed by these guys where, if they walked in the locker room, like people would just walk out of the meeting and they would have no authority at all, right? So I can understand its frustration, but yet we know that's not how you handle it. Can I say something about Ben Johnson real quick, Meg?
Yeah,
I heard,
yeah.
And it's so funny that we're all 3 of us have come on, and 3 of us have completely different reports.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
From what Tyler said and what you said. You know what? I heard that he had confided, and I don't know how this got out. He wasn't sure if he was ready for a head coaching job.
Oh,
he said I'm only 36 years old.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it, right? The stuff I just talked about, right?
Yeah,
Dan Campbell's dealing with when the defensive linemen are pissed because they don't blitz enough or whatever. He's the one in the locker room, right? Dan Campbell's the one that got asked all the tough questions and even took the blame for the run call that Ben Johnson was getting criticized for. And he said, that was me. I got on the headset and I told him, call the run. And I was for sure thinking
Which
that we were going to walk right in the end zone.
I hated that play call too. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So he's in a good situation now. And maybe he thinks, you know what? I could still learn a little. Mm-hmm. I'm only 36 years old. And the last thing I want to do is become Brandon Staley, become the hypest coordinator ever, jump into a job. And now how long will it be before Staley's ever considered for a head coach again? Going by like Dennis Allen, I would say 7 years. 7 years before he gets another shot. So there might be a little bit of self-awareness there. And obviously not good with the whole communication deal.
I was gonna say the optics of when you let the team know are not awesome. They're not good. That was just
Could just be hey, I'm not ready. Wasn't even able to do this simple thing. Right? Maybe I better just stay under the spot. I can't even do simple things like communicate with my potential employers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could have. He should have let them know Monday after the game. But if it was really the more the Chargers thing, then it should have been after Harbaugh was hired. So either way,
I don't think that Chargers thing is true. Why would you even take other jobs?
I don't think it's true either, because does anyone on this panel think anyone outside of Harbaugh was getting that job? I didn't. I thought that bag of money was on that man's doorstep before he even held that national championship trophy up.
Oh, absolutely. But Chargers didn't know what he was going to do, so they were obviously interviewing other people. And the Schefter report I saw this week was because everybody's like Vrabel, and I'll get into that about the Washington job. If Chargers struck out with with Harbaugh, their next was going to be Vrabel.
Vrabel's just going to go replace Dan Quinn, probably, is my guess.
What's that?
Vrabel's going to go replace Dan Quinn and hang out in Dallas for a year.
I don't think so.
No. So what I read about Vrabel is you finish, and then I have a follow-up.
Oh, I was going to say, and then when Mike McCarthy gets fired, his old buddy comes to town, and it's Belichick and Vrabel running Dallas Cowboys.
You think he'll work for Belichick? You think you don't think he wanted to be a head coach? Yeah.
I mean, if he walks in as the DC under McCarthy, because there's no head coaching jobs right now, and they fire McCarthy and they're like, your old buddy's coming back to town. Like, maybe he leaves if a job opens, but like, that's not a bad spot to be in either.
Well, I guess if you worked under Belichick, how much longer is Belichick going to go? I guess you could then
exactly. Yeah. So it's like maybe it gives you 2 years, then it's your job anyway.
I mean, how much longer can that man coach? I mean,
I think he wants to win one more and be done. Because one more would tie him back with Brady, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, he needs one more to tie Brady, and then I think he's done.
Oh my. I thought you meant Vrabel in Washington, because the whole reason, I was big like, okay, why aren't we going after Vrabel? Why aren't we going after Vrabel? And multiple beat reporters in the last day or two have been like, that was never going to work. Vrabel butted heads with the GM in Tennessee. He wants personnel control.
Yeah,
you can't you can't finally get the new GM that's a real true GM and makes all the personnel decisions, and then bring a guy who wants to make personnel decisions. That's why Belichick was never going to work here. And I heard you on the show earlier this week, Tyler. You're absolutely right. Obviously, we wanted more of a youth movement, ownership, GM, that kind of thing. But we have a real GM now that's going to make all personnel decisions, and head coach is going to be a head coach, not make personnel decisions. That has not worked out well for us. So you can't Vrabel, that X'd out Vrabel, who I was big on, because Vrabel wants that control or partial control with personnel decisions. And then you can't just set yourself up to fail. Then they're going to butt heads. So that knocked out him. So the Dan Quinn thing I wasn't excited about. And Tim in chat, thank you for joining us, Left Hand Up Commanders. God, I hope we have a new name that's next to check off the list. No, I was not thrilled about the prospect of Quinn. Because I wanted so many other different prospects. But when it came down to it, and I read more, and I've read a lot in the last, 24 hours knowing it was probably going to happen and then did happen, is he's a great leader of men. That was like their number one thing. I know it went south in Atlanta after, Kyle left, but there was also other factors at play, like injuries and, other things like that of that nature. I know Steve talked about that some, but he brings a good staff. He's very good, known to get a very good staff together. That's huge. Kind of like strict kind of coach, but still like a player's coach type guy. So the key is going to be him bringing in a good offensive coordinator. That, that's why we wanted an offensive guy like Ben
we're
Johnson.
Competing, right?
What's that? Who are we?
We both want the same same person. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, who's top of your list?
Kubiak is what I'm hearing for both of us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then I guess we are competing. I don't know. I just want to see the list and read more.
I think if I was him, I'd go with Drake May.
Yeah. Okay.
Wouldn't you? Drake May or maybe Michael Penix, maybe?
No, hell no.
This seems like one's way better.
At 2.
What's up?
No, he's saying if it was
I'm saying if you come to the Raiders, you'll probably be coaching Bo Nix or Michael Penix. if you go to Washington, you're going to be coaching Drake May.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't even know because you're going to accept the job before the draft.
Right.
What if there's a run on quarterbacks and Bo Nix and Penix go and
which apparently Bo Nix does not look good from, because my timeline, especially since Steve used to cover the Senior Bowl for 10 years. I follow the Senior Bowl people who get credentialed to the Senior Bowl. And then now like a ton of people are getting credentialed to the Senior Bowl. So my timeline's flooded with Senior Bowl updates. Apparently Nix is not looking great at Senior Bowl practices. Take that for what it's worth.
I don't care how much money these guys make in college. There's a reason some of these guys are in college like 6 years. It's not because they're just making money and transferring to school. It's because they know once they get to the next level, it's over. Bo Nix sucks. There was a clip, you said it, Meg. There was a clip from the Senior Bowl practice. They're doing the wide receiver versus the D-back drill. They run down the field. The ball comes up like 8 yards short from both guys. Not even the D-back could have caught back on this and like intercepted it. They were like, yeah, guess who threw that ball? Bo Nix.
Yikes.
They didn't call him a check down merchant for nothing. He just checked the ball down and these guys ran away for 60-yard touchdowns.
Oh, he was. See, I'm not a big college. I really don't watch. I watch college football very casually.
On steroids, basically.
Really? He was a check down in college?
Just throw slants and drag routes. That's pretty much what Bo Nix was.
I think he's going to be better than you guys are giving him credit for.
I mean, he's having a rough week. Which this is like,
okay.
They consider
Lamar Jackson had a rough week too.
Right, but I'm saying from your spread, you're big on a lot of guys coming to be potential starters.
And it's looking worse and worse as it's going on, isn't it?
The Senior Bowl week is considered like their first big job interview, essentially.
Yeah.
And then it means more than the rest of the process and the combine and that kind of stuff. It's not a good start for him, is what could it get better? Of course. Does that mean look that damn stupid test said that Stroud wasn't, whatever, and look at Stroud. All this stuff you have to take with tape and Senior Bowl and interviews and combine and measurables and tests. And it's like, you got to take it all together. And I don't know, throw it out the fucking window because who knows? I don't know. It all feels like a crapshoot to me because I get so frustrated about which quarterbacks are going to be a success and which aren't. And I just hope and pray now that Drake May.
We have 3 guys that are going to be good and one unknown that I'm leaning towards. He's also going to be good. I think the top 3 guys are going to be good in May, Caleb, and Jaden Daniels. And for some reason, I think J.J. McCarthy is going to translate very well.
You do?
Yeah.
I wondered when I watched the national championship, I was wondering.
He just runs a pro-style offense. Like, of all the guys in college, like, if he stepped on the field next year and it's like, why does it look like he's been throwing this same exact pass for 4 years? And that's because he was.
Steve covered the Senior Bowl for 10 years. Let's see. To be fair, some guys have a rough practice week, but get better for the game. Dak had an average week, but a fantastic game. So we'll see. We'll see how watch the game. I mean, it is a full week. You have to give. I mean, I don't know how Knicks did today, but I know Tuesday and Wednesday wasn't great. But yeah, you have to give. I guess some can. And I remember when Steve would do reports from down in Mobile. It was just like, there would be a lot of guys that are up and down. But yeah, we'll see how these guys fare on Saturday and then the whole process. But no, we have to put the whole compilation together. So you think the wild card is going to be McCarthy, not Penix?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Penix was exposed in that national championship game.
Yeah, it was hard. He also got a little banged up.
How quick was he to just be like, I'm just going to drop back and throw it 50 yards and see if my guy can catch it?
He had a bad game.
And I try to say, because
every player in the NFL has a bad game.
That is absolutely true. Yeah, that is absolutely true.
Like, who didn't have a bad game in college? Like Cam Newton?
And I was enamored by Penix the game before. And then, yeah, he had a bad game. And he was also banged up pretty bad in that game, didn't he? I mean, I know by the end he was like keeled over, holding his ribs, and but anyways, I don't know.
Watching him play, Meg, you know who he reminds me of? Spread's gonna hate this.
I already know.
I love that you're warning
disgusting.
him. Who does your
Tagovailoa?
Oh, you're disgusting.
Is it because of the lefty thing? He's lefty too, right?
Yeah. He was relying on so many timing routes, and he just throws deep balls to these fast guys. He's literally 2 all over again.
Steve did say he's a big Tua. I said, give me Penix's comp, and he said a big Tua.
Yeah. Literally what he is.
But I think you're a bit of a Tua hater. I heard you go off on Jay-Z.
Me?
Yes.
I am a Tua hater.
I heard.
That's why I
heard
said he wasn't gonna like it.
Yeah, I heard you go off on JC the other day, and I was like, I don't know. I think you're a little too harsh on the Tua thing. So I'm on JC's
I just think there's 3 teams he'd be good on.
Well, that's fine, but I still think he could really succeed with the Dolphins, and I think you're poo-pooing.
I mean, how many quarterbacks could we just drop on every team and they'd be good? Like 5?
Steve says.
Wait, what?
So Steve says that he says.
How you said he would only be good on 3 team spread. Like, how many quarterbacks could we just pick up from their team and just go, "You're going here," and they're still good? I think there's like 5.
You're
guys.
right. I concede that point.
Steve says that he says a big Tua as a compliment, but it is very similar.
Yeah, because you guys all like Tua. I don't. And you know what's so funny? Do you remember when we first started doing shows, Tyler, and it was me and JJ who were Team Tua and everyone else was knocking him? This is before his rookie year. I thought he was going to just come in and, I thought they were so smart for picking him over Herbert. I thought Herbert was going to be a bust,
Remember
why,
that
when you're like, oh, Bo Nix did bad. I'm like, I remember watching Herbert just go from number 1 overall pick to number 6 overall pick with one bad year at Oregon. It was a full bad season.
Remember those 2 years where I kept trying to bet him MVP?
Tua?
Herbert or Tua?
Yeah. Tua.
I don't remember that.
It was like, I think it was not last year, it was the 2 years.
Oh, no, because we were super high on the Dolphins 2 years ago, right? Before with
when Brian Flores was
who was after Flores?
No, it was Flores to McDaniel.
Okay, well, if it had Flores, I love them. I was probably hand in hand with you, Tyler.
Yeah. Anyway, so it took me a while to get on board, but you know me, Spread. I'm a loyal gal. I'm going to get on board quick on this Quinn thing. I think he can put together a stat to summarize the coaching thing. I think he can put together a good staff from what I've heard. Obviously, I think he could whip this deep. We have one of the worst defenses in the league. I think he could whip this defense into shape rather quickly. And at the end of the day, if I trust the GM and he makes good personnel decisions, that's going to be, very, 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 very important. If he doesn't have the right players, it's not going to matter anyways. If Drake May fails, it's not going to matter. If the guys they draft or they have one of the highest, I think the highest cap space, if the guys they get in free agency, if they mess that up, it's not going to matter anyway. So I think we nailed the GM. And I think I'm coming around on the Quinn thing. I think he's going to be a good leader of men, put together a strong staff, and I've got hope still. So even though I didn't get my top couple of picks, and a Pittsburgh story.
Go ahead. Apply it Disney because you're just writing fairy tales now.
I mean, did you hear? I didn't hear this until maybe this week, and I forgot that. I think I had heard this in the past, but Pittsburgh was set to hire our former offensive lineman, one of the original Hogs, Russ Grimm. 11th hour, Mike Tomlin becomes the coach. I know, to Tyler's chagrin. I mean, like
that, I do remember that name now. Like as you said that name, like all the little news clippings pop back up into my head of like when they would talk about the TV about this Russ Grimm guy being the coach. And then Tomlin got the job, and everyone was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Yeah,
because he just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I believe Russ Grimm's from the Berg, from what I remember, and I think he was an offensive assistant for a couple teams for a while. But anyways, I remember that he was going to be coming. Then Tomlin swooped in the 11th hour, got the job, and never looked back. Hasn't had a losing season since.
People weren't even all that mad about Russ Grimm not getting the job. They were more mad about Bruce Arians getting let go because he was a part of that coaching staff.
Oh, yes, I do.
And they were like, they wanted him to be the coach. And they were like, why is this new guy showing up?
Yeah. I totally remember that now. Yeah. Okay. So that's my thought. Any other thoughts from you guys on the coaching carousel? I gave mine.
Yes, Meg. Can I get some of that completely unjustified, hopeful positivity for my situation?
I mean, some might say it's delusional. I mean, but yes, what do I need to do to pass it on to you? Are you just frustrated about what you love Antonio Pierce? Are you just worried
I think the Raiders made all the right moves. I just don't know. I mean, the coach quarterback combos. I mean, are we going, who's better? I was trying to think this morning before I came on the show. Am I going against the top 2 coach quarterback combos in the league? Just view them as a combined unit.
Oh, Reed, Mahomes,
So I got
and
Reed Mahomes
Herbert,
and I got Harbaugh Herbert.
Yeah,
I mean, like, who's competing with that?
that's rough.
Shanahan Purdy? McDaniel Tua, right?
D'Amico
McCarthy,
Ryan
Yeah.
Stroud.
Dak? What's up?
D'Amico Ryan Stroud.
But that's not the
Harbaugh,
offensive-minded
Lamar.
genius. Yeah. But you're talking like offensive
Yeah,
genius with
Harbaugh,
a
Lamar, I would put up there, Tyler.
okay.
What's Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow? That's imagine having to play those
But
two
I
guys.
don't think
every year.
Taylor's anything. I think anybody can make Joe Burrow look good.
I mean, I think Joe Burrow is like he's the guy right behind Mahomes.
He's your number 2?
I still
Yeah.
think that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's the one guy when he's on that opposite side of the field of Mahomes. I'm not worried that this dude is going to freeze up and just look like a ghost. Like he'll go
How
out there
old
and go toe. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to ask, how old is Andy Reid? Like, because I said to Steve, like, if he
60s.
win, okay,
He's in his 60s, I believe.
like early 60s or late 60s?
I'm just going on the top of my
65.
head. I'm thinking he's in his 30s when he was with
Philly, but
Holmgren.
with Holmgren.
With,
Okay,
on the sideline of Green
65.
Bay, right? That's where he got started. He's from the Holmgren tree, right?
okay.
And I think he worked with Favre when he was really young. That's 95. He's in his
Yeah.
30s. It's about 2025, so I'd say his 60s. I'm just guessing. I'm sure we could look it up, but
I mean, I just
65.
wonder how many more years he has.
I got to say 5 to 7. He's not going to.
Oh, you don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon?
No.
Okay.
He's the
Well, I
type
mean, his
think he'd
name
coach
came
high
up.
school football if he got fired.
His name came up with this whole like Ben Johnson wanting to step into the pristine situation. Oh, well, maybe Reed retires next year.
Well, I think it's his life.
Yeah, I do too. But I didn't know. I mean, it was brought up then, and it's like you think, well, God, if they win a couple more Super Bowls, But
I like the guy John Middlecoff that does a podcast,
mhm.
and he worked for Reed, and he said,
Okay.
"I love football, and I was working on it 14 to 16 hours a day, and this guy made me look like I didn't care about football at all." He said it's like insane, like how much those main guys like love it.
Like, yeah, and they, to your point, aren't giving it up, are just like going to enjoy retirement. Steve agrees with you. Mahomes, Burrow are the two, and lead is never safe. Brady, like the Brady Montana. Yeah. All right. Any other coaching thought?
You didn't give me any positive thoughts here, except that Reed might retire in 5 years, Meg. What do I have to look forward to? I was just
live in La La Land for like 5 years, spread. You'll be all right.
Bro, I think I got a better chance of marrying a Super Bowl than any of my favorite teams ever winning a championship. and spoiler alert, there's not a bunch of supermodels knocking on my door right now.
Spread, don't give up hope. You never
now
know.
Running it through my head, like, holy hell, you got a bad chance of one of your teams winning a chip.
It's
the
terrible,
Kings,
huh?
the Raiders.
And the A's.
Throw the A's in the trash. They stink. Like they're in the garbage.
I mean, seriously, it's just hopeless. If there wasn't for gambling, I'd probably be like
well, that's why gambling's so wonderful, and it gives us hope when we don't have hope. And
I'd probably be just doing like fitness podcasts, or I'd be like a TV critic. I'd be like, so I just watched the new True Detective last night. Let's dive into it, guys.
Oh, you'd be doing some like crime show critic stuff?
Yeah, something, right?
Oh my God, Fred. Well, thank God for gambling. No, I can't give you much hope on your competition in the AFC West.
Then, like Sean Payton and X.
But you need hope for like who you're going to get, the quarterback situation. I think that's number one for you and I. It starts with the quarterback.
I think I'm kind of like doing the Homer Simpson on that whole take that we have like 7 Hall of Famers coming out this year.
It's usually around this time during the Senior Bowl, during the big interview process really starts, where the real prospects emerge and the ones that then fall to the second, third, fourth, fifth round. But you never know. I mean, like Dak was a third or fourth rounder. There are guys.
Dak is good.
I do think Dak is
good. Snuck him in there earlier too with Ben Johnson talking about going to elite quarterbacks. I'm like, he's not going to play with Dak.
Yes, he is. I mean, well, I don't want him to because I'd be scared of that. But
I wouldn't.
You and I
As long
disagree
as
on
Dak's
Dak.
in your division.
You and I disagree on Dak and Tua. We can say that.
Yeah. You're much more positive than I am.
Oh,
man.
Steve gave you positivity. There's 3 wild card spots. So
Yeah,
there's your positivity. The whole division can go to the playoffs.
Steve, who do you think will be better next year, Denver or Las Vegas?
Oh, I definitely. Well, it depends on your court. It really depends on your quarterback situation.
I mean, I love Antonio Pierce, and I'm so happy we hired him. But you still got to say we have the 4th best coach in the division, right? I mean, Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh's, Andy Reid's arguably, now that Belichick's gone, arguably the best coach we have left.
Right.
Harbaugh's that part's 5 for 5. He's never failed to win anywhere he's gone, including University of San Diego.
Right. Yeah. No, the man doesn't fail. That's part. Yeah, he said depends on QB. But he leans Raiders. So okay. Just have hope, Spread. Have hope. You got to figure out this quarterback situation. You and I need our teams to figure out the quarterback situation.
But see, you got to figure it out.
There's no slam dunks. Come on.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you know who you're drafting, and he's either going to be good or not. Like, I don't even know who's going to be available at 14.
Well, that's true. I've heard some Raiders beat writers talk about trading up, or do you have like any?
If we trade up, it would be for Jayden Daniels. What do you think about him? And I know you rely on Steve a lot for the scouting.
I do.
But,
yeah.
Do you think that he's going to be really good?
I don't want him personally because I'm concerned. I watched Underdog Network does things with Colt McCoy, like a little quarterback school, and some of the things that he mentioned was sometimes like kind of taking off too much after one read. I mean, obviously he had glowing things like best athlete on the field and, those kind of things, but kind of in the NFL, he's going to have to sit in the pocket longer and go through progressions instead of just taking off all the time. And I mean, that's what I was worried about with Anthony Richardson too. And I don't know, that kind of just scares me and for me, gets me triggered about RG3. Like just Shanahan's built them a system for him to just run and be successful. But then the next year when it was like, no, you have to progress and get through reads and that kind of stuff, he couldn't. And he blamed it on injury history, but he couldn't get through reads. I mean,
I've seen his Twitter timeline. It doesn't seem like he was a Mensa candidate.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm not surprised that he was struggling to grasp some intellectual
concepts. Right. But I don't know anything intellectually, obviously, for Jayden Daniels. What I do know is in college.
No, I'm talking about RG3. Like, I'm not surprised he couldn't pick up like advanced systems. Like, have you heard some of the stuff he says?
Oh, his fight with Jay Gruden.
When I read it, I go, I hope you're just trying for engagement. I hope you really don't believe.
Oh, I think he is trying for engagement, but that's him. And that's the other thing that drove me crazy. And I know nothing about Jayden Daniels as a human, but RG3 was just a massive narcissistic, egomaniac, and everything was me. And it doesn't surprise me that now, even as an ESPN analyst, he's just doing whatever to drive engagement and that kind of stuff. But no, it gets me triggered to the whole RG3. Like, I don't want a guy that just is going to run. I want a quarterback who can run. That's great. So that's what I'd prefer. And that's what makes me nervous about Daniels. But, guys like him and Anthony Richardson and, others, like they, as an athlete like that, or
Richardson.
What's that?
What do you think of Richardson?
Well, I don't think we had a big enough sample size, but obviously from a fantasy standpoint, I'm buying in more this year because we saw what he can do in a small sample size. But I do think he's going to be you never want to label a guy injury prone after 1 year, but the way he ran, he had issues like 3 out of the 4 games that he played. And, so I just have concerns that if you were to take that aspect of his game away, then he wouldn't be the quarterback from a fantasy standpoint. But as far as the Colts, I think they have a lot to be excited about, but I would always keep a good backup like Gardner Minshew on hand.
Have a better career, Richardson or Fields?
Richardson.
I think Richardson. I do. I think
from what we've seen of Richardson in that small sample size,
yeah,
he reminds me of a guy we talked about earlier.
Between him and Fields, all he did was run.
I mean, he threw the ball decently well in the schemed up passing plays he did have.
And also
highlights too.
I also buy into his coach Shane Steichen to set him up.
That's the main thing is like if you build the offense around these guys that are crazy athletes like Lamar, like AR, like Jayden Daniels, they're gonna thrive. They're going to look great. When you drop them into things and say, here, figure out how to play quarterback, and this ain't your style of play,
right.
stuff like happens with Fields. So it's like
Right.
with the way the Colts have their team built, I think AR could not look exactly like Cam Newton, but I think he could be a version of that.
I think he can be a version of Cam Newton. From the small sample I saw, I agree with Tyler. I think he can be a version of Cam Newton.
I think you guys
of all the teams in the AFC, where it's like towards the bottom, if the Colts just came roaring up the standings next year, and it's like, oh, they're a contender, and their quarterback's a dual threat. He could run. He's pounding in 50-plus rushing yards and a touchdown a game. They can move the ball through the air. They run the ball well. They could be a problem.
No, they could, and he could end up being very good. But Cam Newton, like, when the guy who coaches all the quarterbacks talks about him, he's like, he's by far the best prospect I ever had.
Oh, really?
I mean, Cam Newton was just like, he was the stud of all studs, but
right.
I think he could be a version of him.
The fastest, the biggest arm. And the thing was, he showed accuracy in college. Go look at that Auburn team. The team he won with in Auburn,
they didn't have another pro on
made the NFL.
Right.
I think one defensive lineman made the NFL, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he could be good, but I mean, I would be really surprised if he's ever MVP.
He's the one case where you could say a man controlled a foot, like how it's like, oh, a basketball player can kind of go out there and dictate the whole game by himself.
Yeah.
He won a national championship basically by himself.
Yeah.
Damn near pulled off a Super Bowl by himself.
He did. Yeah. No, I think in the Steichen offense, he's set up to succeed. To circle back to the Jaden Daniels for you spread, Steve's take is likes him, but feels like there's a gap between him and the top two, which I think obviously is
I feel like you just have to treat him like they did Lamar. Like if you draft him, you got to rebuild the whole offense from the ground up around this guy. This is your guy. Build it to his advantages and not to where he's going to look bad, and you'll be fine. If you drop him in,
backup that does the exact same thing as he does.
Yeah, you have to do stuff like that, but you can't just drop this guy in and be like, figure it out. That's when he's going to look bad.
Right. Steve said, like feels better upside, but he will get there. So, I mean, I hope Washington goes with May, but it sounds like
99%.
Yeah, I assume. But there's people, I mean, whatever, Kuiper mocked, Daniels to Washington.
Kuiper was supposed to retire when Jimmy Clausen wasn't like a 10-time MVP. So
right.
These guys can be wrong too, right?
Who should the Patriots draft? I don't know. Steve, weigh in on that one because Steve's our draft analyst at fanspeak.com. Obviously, I think they're in the quarterback
Marvin
market.
Harris has got to be like, please, no.
Right.
No. Because if he falls, he's going to be in Arizona with Kyler.
Right.
I mean, that's such a better spot. Where would you rather be in December? Just if you're trying to get numbers. You're going to get way more numbers in Arizona playing the NFC West.
Right.
Oh,
totally.
Get some rain here in San Francisco, right?
Right.
Meg, back to Fields. Where do you think he ends up?
I was thinking it was so. At first, I was thinking Atlanta, but it would depend on who the head coach is. I'm still wondering if that could be a spot for him in Atlanta.
I swore I seen a report no head coaching jobs are open anymore, so they hired their guy. I'd have to go look and see who it is.
No,
Raheem Morris. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Was he the Buccaneers coach?
Rams defensive coordinator.
Rams D coordinator.
Was he the Buccaneers head coach?
I think he did have a 1-year stint.
Maybe. But I swore it went from Arian to.
He did have a short stint as a coach. I did think he had a 1-year stint, and I do think he maybe was the Bucs coach for a year. I could be wrong. But yeah, no, apparently Raheem Morris is very well respected, similar to Quinn, can put a great staff together, has gotten a lot of great feedback from players, all those kind of things. So it was definitely, a lot of people said that was a great hire for him. All around, he's just a good all around coach. He was Bucs coach for a year. So yeah, I don't know. Atlanta might be a spot. I'm trying to think of. I'd have to think about it further. I don't know. What do you think, Tyler? Where do you think Fields could end up?
Atlanta, Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas. Yeah, I was gonna say it could be Vegas.
The Steelers say they want to bring in competition for Pickett. I don't think they spend that much capital to get
Yeah, that would be a
competition.
lot of capital to. Yeah.
Would you
Cleveland,
want him there? Do
maybe?
you think he would do well?
I would take him. I think he's better than
I
any of
think
the guys
he's
we
really
got.
good. I think all those places he's gonna do better than he did in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in almost every quarterback situation, just to like kind of the reverse of what you said, like you can't just drop anybody in anywhere situation. Almost most quarterbacks, I think, maybe outside of Mahomes and Burrow.
Steve's got an
And
interesting comment here about if the Patriots were to draft Marvin Harrison, what if Fields signs with New England?
Oh yeah.
That would be good.
That could be a possibility.
Yeah, no, the
Your dog
pairing them
likes that
together.
idea.
But I think it's all going to come down to, for Fields, like the offensive coordinator. So I think that, for all these guys, it's going to come down. I mean, that's why you can't wait to find out who your offensive coordinator. I can't wait to find out who my offensive coordinator. And then, now with this coaches carousel, it's like, okay, well, now Dallas needs to find a defensive coordinator. It's just so crazy how, like, when the carousel finally stopped on the head coach, and now all these coordinator positions have to get filled. So, and it has to happen fast, so.
Next, I got another one for you. Talking about quarterbacks. This is a great offseason.
Yeah.
Russ, I know that he's not like elite. He's
Do you want
somewhere.
him? Do you want him? You'd be fine with the Raiders?
I wouldn't hate
I love
it.
the way she just tried to like throw him right there. She's like, "Do you want him?"
I really
I don't.
He's going to be playing for a veteran minimum. So you're getting a veteran on a rookie contract scale. Then we can take an offensive tackle or
that is such a Steelers guy right there, is Russ. Giving up on by his team, coming in on a vet deal with a chance to make a name for himself again. That is such a Steelers competitive guy for Kenny Pickett.
And imagine what a stud he'll be when Tomlin just smacks the F out of him for trying to do high knees on the plane. I bet you we sign one of these guys to our quarterback room. Either Russell Wilson or Ryan Tannehill.
I wouldn't be surprised Ryan Tannehill
makes sense. He knows the system, so even if he doesn't start, he can help.
I was gonna say that he absolutely. I mean, he was a good quarterback with Arthur Smith. I know that was years ago, but
you're just there for the knowledge,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can see him having a little Flacco run of 3 to 4 games.
Yeah. He would be a good back. Actually, he would make a ton of sense with Arthur Smith. Actually, that makes a ton of sense. Tim said he would love Fields. I assume you were talking about in New England. Yes, if you pair him with Harrison, yeah.
That'd be kind of sweet right off the bat.
That would be sweet.
He's gonna wish he stayed.
Ramondre in the backfield too. Like that's not a terrible starting point.
Yeah, that could do a quick 180 to that offense really quick. Yeah. I don't know who Mayo has as his offensive coordinator. Do you? I don't know his staff yet.
I don't know yet either.
I have no idea.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk some early props now. That circle back to the Super Bowl, and then next week, we will have a show, of course, on Thursday with Jayme as well, to really break down our final official picks on sides and totals and props, and we can really get into fun exotic props and really really dive deep on that. Everything will be up on the betting card because, as to Spread's point with Super Bowl props, if you like overs, and I do, you'll want to bet them early because they're probably going to get steamed up. I have already bet some overs, and so I have them up on the sheet. So do you want me to go through the ones that I like early that okay. So the ones that I liked early, it's just 6, I believe. 6 lines. It's both quarterbacks rushing. Purdy, while he didn't do that a ton in the regular season, in both the postseason games has run a lot more. I forget, I have the date on the percentages increase, but obviously it's definitely a massive increase. And I think against this Kansas City defense, he's going to need to. So, and I believe his lines, though, I need to pull up the lines that I got.
Can you imagine preparing for Lamar for a week and then you get to prepare for Purdy?
Right. Right.
They're like, oh, we don't have the fastest guy on our team playing practice squad quarterback anymore.
Right. Okay, so Purdy's line is 11.5. Mahomes is 25.5. So, Mahomes always runs more in the postseason. I believe he got there last week, but I don't think he got there the weeks prior. Or maybe he did in the Dolphins game, but not the Bills game. Because I know I bet it in the Bills game, and he came up like 3 yards short. So I like both quarterbacks rushing over. I like both running backs rushing over. Again, I talked at the beginning of the show why I like the under. You attack both these teams on the ground, especially San Francisco, but truly, honestly, the weakest point of the Kansas City defense is their rush defense. So both teams you want to attack on the ground. I like both running backs over, even though McCaffrey's is very high. I still like it since Thanksgiving. Outside of getting injured in the Washington game, he's hit this line at or around this line. I think he was 1 yard short based on what the line is now last week, but he's hit at around this line since Thanksgiving outside of the Washington game, which he left early. So you have McCaffrey at 90.5. You have Pacheco at 65.5. And then finally, the two receivers that I like the most is Travis Kelce. Obviously his season was a bit underwhelming. His postseason has been amazing. He's now back up to 30% target share in the postseason. His line is basically different books, but around 70 yards. And then Deebo Samuel over 56.5. So a little bit from each team, but I'm just trying to highlight where I think there are weaknesses. I don't think you want to target Ayuk. The boundary cornerbacks for the Chiefs are so good, but I think Deebo can get moved around. That can allow him to easily get that prop. And then with Kelce, his target share, has gone up dramatically in the postseason. And obviously I believe he's cleared this number in each of their 3 postseason games. So those are my 6 props that are already on the sheet and already bet. Tyler, you like props? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those, Meg. The main ones I've been looking at, though, Brock Purdy's interception at -110.
Sure.
I think that's an easy play. Loved your call on the CMC rushing yards. I kind of like his receiving a little better, though, because I think they're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be throwing a little bit more. Pacheco at 67.5. I don't mind. Mahomes at 25.5. I know everyone's going to say they're scary because he's going to kneel the ball out at the end of the game, maybe. But let's not forget, he was up at like 40 yards before he pushed himself down to that 29 that one time. That was just a one-game outlier. I don't mind that over 25.5 on him. Rashee Rice, I think, has a big game here. I think it's his game. The corners for San Fran, I just don't think they're all that good. 67.5 on his yards and his anytime touchdown I like in this game.
Who do you like better, Kelce or Rice? I kind of like Kelce better, but I still do like Rice. I
kind of like Rice better because I feel like they can – their best defenders are in the middle and in their safeties, and Fred Warner and these guys. Those guys will cover the likes of Kelce. They won't cover Rice. Their corners are their weak spots. Rice is going to eat these guys alive.
Right. But I think both could get there, honestly. I actually like doing one inverse bet that I don't mind doing is if we think it's a slower pace game and more leaned into the rushing side. We know Mahomes targets are going to Rice and Kelce. You may get 1 or 2 catches from MVS and 1 or 2 from Justin Watson. So what you could do is you can bet Mahomes under and Kelce and Rice is over and get, that uncorrelated stuff. Just
I don't like that idea.
Because I don't think Mahomes has cleared that, in his line is pretty high at 265, I believe. So I don't think he's cleared it in the playoffs yet. I believe I'd have to double check that. And then he's only clear, honestly, this has been a down year for Mahomes from a fantasy statistical. He's still the greatest quarterback in the league, but from a statistical fantasy output, it's been a down year. So, I think he's only cleared that line 5 times. And I think it goes back to the weapons and that they are very targeted on these, very reliant on these 2 receivers. So I kind of like that. Okay. So you said CMC receiving, Purdy interception, Rice over. What was the other one? I think I missed one. Oh, I think you're on mute. Wait.
It was Pacheco rushing, but I believe you already talked about
Oh,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah. Okay. Then do you want me to add these to the sheet? Because I like those.
Yeah, you could add them up there.
Okay.
The one I like the most is Purdy's interception and Rice's touchdown.
Oh, racist. That's what I missed. Okay. Yeah. So far, I've only put CMC 2 touchdowns at plus 250 and Pacheco. But I think you can do, and I talked about this on the show this morning, I think you can do some fun ladders with Pacheco. Pacheco and McCaffrey are the most likely to score. They're getting them, they have the good matchup. They're getting all the high leverage touches inside the 10. I think you can do, one each, and then you get plus odds. I think you could do 2 each together, and then you get some crazy odds, and then, or you could bet like McCaffrey 2 and Pacheco 1. You just have to pay some juice on Pacheco. So I think you could have fun with both of them. So that's what I have on the sheet so far. But yeah, I'll add the Rice touchdown to the sheet. So yeah, well, spread just left us, but yeah, any other early looks? I know next week we can get, dive a little deeper on props or anything with line movements that we want to attack, or, there's the more exotic fun specials and different things you can get into, but any other final thoughts on props that you want to kind of hit now before, things could get moved?
I mean, of course, I don't mind the Mahomes MVP at plus 130. I feel like it's just getting their better money line. Of course, there's the outlier where Kelsey wins it or Rice wins it, but I just feel like what did those guys have to do to where Mahomes doesn't get the stats too, to where he just gets it? So I don't mind that bet.
That's why we were talking about this morning. I think the bigger concern would be like if Pacheco got 2, you know what I mean?
I think that's the one guy that's like, yeah, if he's rushing all over him, he could be the problem.
Right, because if he gets to, like, say he gets 100 plus yards and 2, and Mahomes only has 1, and again, I'm playing into the whole lower script narrative, right? Then,
don't let him throw him that touchdown, Meg.
Right. But they'd have to both, they'd both be rushing touchdowns, and yeah, so I think that's a thin path, but it could happen. So go ahead. What were
and
we
then
say?
just some of these game specials, like Kelsey to have 25 receiving yards in each half plus 120, Rice to do 30 receiving yards in each half plus 250, each team to score 1 rushing and 1 passing touchdown plus 250. Like there's just so many prop bets. Just scroll through them, check them out. You'll find
so many fun ones.
Yeah.
We're going to find, that's what we're going to do next week. We'll find some of our favorite fun, we'll really finalize what the official.
Then you can do stuff like, will this team score more in the NBA against this guy?
Oh yeah, the cross bet, the cross prop. Yeah,
they have a lot of fun ones, right?
The cross sport. Oh my God, there's so many.
Score more, like LeBron James or Brock Purdy pass attempts, right?
Right.
There's all these fun ones.
I know the cross sport stuff is wild. Well, that's a fun question. What is Super Bowl wise your favorite out of sides and totals spread? Do you have like a favorite other bet that you make for Super Bowl?
Yes, whatever Tyler plays. I mean, really, right? He does props all year. I'm not going to jump in right now and act like I'm the prop expert.
I didn't know. I meant like these exotic ones, like anything else.
I like the cross ones with the NBA.
You like the cross sport ones.
Performances versus who'll score. Points versus the total team points, right? Like will the Golden State Warriors more pass attempts than the Warriors points or things like that. Right?
Like one of my favorite exotics is like the weird stuff, like will an offensive lineman score a touchdown, or like, will someone other than a quarterback throw a touchdown pass, like those kind of stuff where it's just, it's fun. Cause if you saw it happen, you'd be like, oh my God, I bet that, but I mean,
yes, no on an onside kick.
Right. Yeah. Like that. But again, we'll pick out our favorites. Tyler, what is your favorite, like, exotic, like obviously not props and anytime touchdowns, but what's your favorite exotic type bet for Super Bowl? Any favorite ones?
I mean,
like generally speaking.
Never mind. They're limiting you to special teams on this. I was going to say, it says Kansas City special team to score the first touchdown 100 to 1. I can see one of those, but if that was their defense / special teams, like maybe Brock Purdy throws that kick right off the bat, spots us 7. But I mean, scrolling through,
but they're talking like kick return to start the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really found any crazy, wacky.
No,
ones that I
we'll
really
find
like
we'll
yet.
find some fun ones for next week. But yeah, I didn't know if there was a type of like I do like doing some of those specials. Like, and again, like responsible amounts, like just sprinkling and having a little bit of fun on some of those specials. So yeah, we will definitely find some of those too. We will definitely narrow in on, the side, the total, the props, the anytime touchdowns, first touchdowns, of course. And then I really do think this could be a case for the last year, or no, it was 2 years ago, the Rams Bengals game, another low scoring game that was only 23-20, but it was Cup had two, Higgins had two. I saw a guy on Twitter that had posted it and then like promoted it after. But good for him. I mean, the easy one that I like right now is Pacheco 2, McCaffrey 2. But again, your McCaffrey's only 250, so it's not like you're getting insane odds, but it's still a fun bet.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyways, we will narrow this down and get it all up on the sheet. But the early ones are on the FanSpeak betting card right now. And then I will add some of Tyler's, and then we will talk this through more with Jayme and the three of us on Thursday and really get it narrowed down, and any other fun ones we like to get the full scope of the Super Bowl betting card. But final thoughts, guys, before we get out of here, and then we will, circle back and talk this all through again next Thursday. Final thoughts, Fred.
I enjoy talking with you guys so much, and I'm envious of your ability to be positive.
I'm not usually in life, just so you know. I just can fake it for Washington.
That's so funny. I would think it would be the opposite. I think I'm more positive in life than I am about my teams.
Yeah, no.
I literally think I have a much better chance of having a next happy 10 years than I do that any of my teams are going to do good in the next 10 years.
No, I've actually, each year I get older, I get a little more cynical. So no, it's not
Also,
a good.
Meg, I don't know what you have going on there, but you'll have to watch this back.
It's flashing.
Yeah, and so it's like the dress. And Tyler probably wasn't even born yet, but there was this meme on the internet where it was dressed and half the people saw blue and half the people saw gold.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. You're either in purple or pink to take.
What is going on? I have no idea. I'm
How
nothing.
is that flashing? I was like, because I don't see you clicking on Windows.
No, I'm not clicking. I mean, I have a couple
purple,
times, but
pink,
I'm
purple, pink.
there. It's doing it again. I know. I have no idea. It's like my camera cannot handle the pink sweater.
It's catching some spot where it's like
there we go.
fixing itself. Yeah, it's picking up on something and just changing the light.
I mean, yeah, no, I've noticed it. I'm like, what the hell's going on? But anyways, Tyler, final thoughts, and did it again before we get out of here.
No, I mean, it was a fun year. These shows are fun. We'll get one more till the end of the year, and we'll probably do a wrap-up show afterwards. But
I sure
we'll be
hope
back
so.
next year. So hopefully we pick the winners for this last game, and we're going to hit some big bets. So just tune in next week.
I like that. Hell yeah, this is so fun. I love doing shows with you guys. So we'll run it back next week. We'll run it back some in the off season. We'll run it back next year. Come on, we got to keep doing these shows. And yeah, I mean, I know Spread and you love talking off season stuff, so we'll get Steve on too to talk some this spring. So Tim said you guys are the best.
I didn't want to dive into it today, but I got a big thing that I want to talk to Steve about, and it's based off basically the Green Bay Packers' new defensive coordinator.
Oh, okay.
Leaving college and basically saying you don't coach football in college anymore. And
gotcha.
I kind of want to get some of his thoughts on that.
That's definitely a question for Steve. So yeah, Tim, thank you. You're the best. Thank you for joining us. But yeah, we'll get We'll get Steve on for some off-season shows with you guys. So you guys can pick his brain too. Because yeah, I'm not the college prospects draft prep girl at all. Or are these good free agency moves? I mean, I'm sure I'll have a wish list for Washington, but that's definitely his wheelhouse, and we will do some fun shows like that too. But again, another fun one coming next Thursday, so stay tuned for that. So for Spread, for Tyler, I'm Meg, and we will see you next Thursday.